Nicola Sturgeon has been told the only way an independent Scotland would gain recognition from the EU is if independence had been achieved officially, namely with Westminster's blessing. As Prime Minister Boris Johnson won an 80-seat majority in December's general election, the SNP enjoyed their own success in Scotland. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon argues that she now has a mandate to push for a second independence referendum. But Mr Johnson denied this request, provoking Scottish nationalists to seek a transfer of power from Westminster to enable the SNP to call a new vote on independence. After the election, Ms Sturgeon formally requested powers from Westminster to hold a second independence referendum, but the notion was firmly rejected by the Prime Minister. The SNP opted for the Section 30 order route, aiming to give Scotland the power to pass laws in areas that are normally reserved to Westminster. The case is before the Court of Session at the moment, where independence supporters are trying to establish whether Holyrood can legislate for a referendum unilaterally. However, expert on public law Aileen McHarg highlights the barriers that the SNP could face if it decides to push for independence without Westminster's approval. In her paper published in January, she states that achieving effective independence is a matter of securing recognition by other sovereign states, including the parent state, and this, as the ICJ International Court of Justice pointed out, is essentially a political rather than a legal matter. She adds, in effect, international recognition is much more likely to be forthcoming if the independence process is perceived to have been legitimate. In an interview with Express.co.uk, Professor McHarg explained further why unilaterally declaring independence could backfire. She said, "Unilaterally declaring independence is less desirable because while the action is lawful, the key point is effectiveness. Effectiveness really depends on whether other states recognize you. If other states don't regard the process you've used to secure independence as legitimate, then they may well not recognize. Given that becoming independent is a difficult process, to do an action like that where the UK government refuses to recognise it will be even more difficult." Professor McHarg highlights the recent example of Catalonia, the region which sought independence from Spain. In October 2017, the region's government held an unconstitutional referendum without permission from Madrid.